Okay, so I have my journal open and I've divided it into two white squares and two black squares just to kind of change things up a little bit. And I've got my gouache out and I'm ready for another journal page. I used black gesso and white gesso. So I started in with the red gouache and just making some random organic shapes to get started. Not really thinking a lot about what I'm doing. And the gouache was very dry, so I had to moisten each little square. So that's what's taking me so long, likely. So, a little background information on this journal. It is a very old ledger that belonged to my husband. He was the bill payer in the family, and he just loved listing all of our monthly bills and keeping track of them in that manner. And after he passed away, I just boxed them up and really had no idea what I wanted to do with them. And so at the beginning of the year, I took them out and started gessoing over the pages and started creating an art journal with it. So I do like every other page. So his writing and all of the numbers and the memories still pop through the work, and I think it's pretty sweet. So I'm still working with the gouache and bringing in some more organic shapes. Not really concerned about color or composition at this time. It's just play. I have a Crayon crayon, so I'm plowing back through with the crayon. And that looks like it's a Crayon oil pastel. But I do use Crayon crayons as well, Neocolor 2s. So I brought in the red. I really am beginning to like the contrast with the black and the white. And as I progress through this work, you'll notice how sectioning off the page really kind of played into the overall composition. So I'm filling the brush and adding more color, bigger block of the blue in the center. And the paint is really starting to wake up now. My granddaughters really like that box of gouache and have really put a big dent in it. So I thought it would be fun to just kind of play around with it a little bit. It's been a while since I've used it. So the clank, clank, clank of rinsing my brush off. And I'm trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. Lots of opportunity to play, which I love, by the way, with the journals. I think that's just so much fun. Keeps things fresh. There we go. Now I'm coming in with that pure green. And I love the way that it pops against the white section and the play between the blue and the red. So I had a little bit of an issue with the paint covering, mostly because the gouache was dry. So it needed to be reactivated to really start to cover. So I went back in and loaded up that brush with more of the red. And as you can see, it really is starting to cover pretty well at this time. When you see me pause in between my painting or mark making, I'm just pondering what my next move is going to be. Bringing in some crayon. I love the Koran oil pastels. They're really, the color load is just really, really pure perfection. And I love the contrast between paint and mark making items. So the piece is really starting to liven up a little bit. We have blue and greens and reds against the black and white sections. And if you know my work, I'm a little bit impatient when I'm creating. I don't generally like wait time, so it does not matter to me if the paint is still wet. I will plow through it with anything I can get my hands on, whether it's a crayon or an oil pastel or a pencil. You'll see me doing that, whether it's journal work or work on canvas. And it doesn't make any difference if I'm using water-based paints or if I'm using oil paints. My process is pretty similar. So I brought in some orange crayon and I'm adding some little spots of color. I'm trying to figure out what color I'm going to go for next. Overall, I thought this little journal entry was just full of fun. So I'm bringing more green to the composition. And I really pulled the green all the way down into that lower left corner. And now I'm dragging my brush, which is kind of a signature mark that I do. For some reason, I like to frame things. And you probably noticed it when I was using the blue oil pastel. I wrapped that all the way around the composition. I don't know whether in my mind I like the way it frames the piece. And I'm figuring out that was the wrong orange crayon. I think that was a piece of an old oil crayon that I had in my set of Koran oil pastels. It didn't do very well against the wet paint. So I decided to come back in and liven up that blue area a little bit. Again, with gouache, I needed to work in layers. The pigment load of the paint was not very strong. So I let it dry a little bit and then came back in with a loaded brush and added to the area. I think it really livens things up and it gives me a variety of sizes of shapes. There's smaller ones and medium size and larger sizes. But you can still see the white areas popping through and the dark areas of the black gesso popping through as well. The one thing I have to say about working in a very old journal And I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this is, 45 plus years old. The paper is pretty fragile. So by gessoing a page, it has really helped, because I don't want to destroy this journal. It's very meaningful to me and my family, so I don't want to destroy it or hurt it in any way with using it as an art journal. In my mind, I'm kind of combining my passion for art and my spouse's passion for taking care of his family and keeping track of our funds. So I want this journal to be available for my children and my grandchildren to thumb through. So I'm adding more oil pastel. I really like that contrast and the zigzaggy lines up at the top. It's about creating texture in your work as well. That's the thing I love about mixed media, being able to play with all the things. And now, here I am pondering if I want to add some collage. That's a fluorescent pink jelly plate pull that I did on probably copy paper. And I think I decided no, but it was very, very cool to lay it against the work on the opposite page and to pull a contrast. So in some of my smaller journals, that's what I've been doing. I've been creating on one page with mixed media, and then on the page next to it, I've been applying gel plate pulls, collage papers on the next page. So I'll have a video up soon about that. So I think I brought in a pencil or a black crayon to do some line work. And there you have it.